Breaking news tonight involving embattled Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, a second woman coming forward accusing Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct. She recounts the alleged incident in the New Yorker magazine, claiming it happened while they were students at Yale. Kavanaugh and the White House both responding tonight. This as the top-ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee calls for an immediate postponement of proceedings in the Kavanaugh nomination. ABC's Daria Albinger with the latest.
Sunday evening, The New Yorker publishing a story in which Deborah Ramirez, a Yale classmate of Brett Kavanaugh, describes a drunken dormitory party where Kavanaugh allegedly exposed himself to her, an incident The New Yorker is reporting Ramirez wants the FBI to investigate. This latest accusation coming as testimony from Dr. Christine Blasey Ford before the Senate Judiciary Committee has finally been set for Thursday at 10 a.m. Ford has accused Kavanaugh of sexual assault back in 1982. Judge Kavanaugh categorically denying both accusations, calling this latest one, quote, a smear, plain and simple.
Setting the stage for a confirmation fight, the showdown over Judge Brett Kavanaugh's nomination is heating up as some Senate Democrats vow to block President Trump's Supreme Court pick.
Judge Kavanaugh, you should not be serving in this building as a Supreme Court justice.
His views are outside the mainstream, and there's every reason to believe he would overturn Roe.
Now is the time to demand a justice who will protect our health care, not strike it down. Now is the time to fight.
Okay, so you can see that the left is preparing for an epic battle, but you know what the right is too? Because there's an opportunity to really shape the future direction of our country. Did you see the front cover of the Daily News just yesterday? Take a look at this. I held it up on air yesterday because I was just stunned by this. You know what it says. I mean, really, do we have to stoop to levels like this? Think about it, by the way. There's a whole bunch of people in a newsroom that decide on these covers. They have in the haw and they figure out, well, what should tomorrow's cover be? And this is what they go with? It really shows you how aggressive this is all getting. And my fear, of course, is that it's going to get far more aggressive, which perhaps is why the president's very anxiously trying to make sure that this nominee is put forward before he leaves for Europe shortly, and that there's a confirmation hearing before midterms.
You can say that again. Republicans in the Senate are moving to carry out a swift confirmation of whomever the president puts up to replace Anthony Kennedy, despite their very slim majority.
I think that we got plenty of precedent when to have appointments to the Supreme Court and when not to.
At this particular time, it's the Senate's obligation to move ahead and do what they should do on these matters.
Now, Democrats say that any vote should take place after the midterm elections, especially given that McConnell said they couldn't possibly consider a new Supreme Court justice in the run-up to the last election.
Our Republican colleagues in the Senate should follow the rule they set in 2016, not to consider a Supreme Court justice in an election year.
We're 4 months away from an election. Yeah. 1/3 of the United States Senate practically is up for election. The decision that we make is going to have generational impact, and the American people should be able to weigh in.
As for what is at stake for the Democratic Party, here's some of what we heard earlier on this network.
It's not acceptable to accept this as a fait accompli. In other words, for the next 3 decades or more, we're going to be run by a 5-4 right-wing court. And just accept that. If you lay down like the experts are saying, and lay down and accept this as history that can't be stopped, you're going to see a political party in serious implosion. You watch.
President Trump took the unprecedented step of giving them a list of names of people he would appoint to the court so they knew they could trust him. This is a solemn pledge between him and his base, and he will not break it.
Sung-Min, I know you're not the parliamentarian of the Senate, but you and Jeremy are really smart. So you get this question, and that is, when the Democrats talk about blocking tactics, when people like Chris on the air earlier today talked about parliamentary tactics, what can the minority party do? Minority not by much. What can the minority party do in the person of Chuck Schumer to slow this down, to throw something in the spokes?
Well, frankly, there's not a lot that Democrats can do at this point. You're right that in the Senate, Democrats or the minority, in this case, Democrats, do have some rights. But in the case of judicial nominations, they don't have much recourse at this point. Remember, we've seen the filibuster for nominations erode bit by bit over the last several years. It began in 2013 with Senate Democrats going nuclear on most nominations, and Senate Republicans last year finishing the job by getting rid of that filibuster for Supreme Court nominations. So that is why Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans can easily pass whomever they want, whomever Trump picks, as long as their ranks stick together. So in terms of strategy, there's not a lot for Chuck Schumer and his ranks to do here. I mean, with anything in the Senate, you can slow down the process by some days, but at the end of the day, it's inevitable, as long as all Republicans stay together, that whomever Trump nominates in the coming weeks will get confirmed.
And then the activist base, they feel as if, oh, you're right, oh my God, look what they did to Merrick Garland. I can't believe this. They want to do something, but there's really nothing Democrats can do. And yet, I take it you'd like to see them do something. What is that something?
So there is something Democrats can do. And that thing is using the moral force of arguments about what a fifth hyper-conservative on the Supreme Court will do to actual human lives, will do to women's reproductive freedom, criminalizing abortion, will do to our healthcare system, shredding government protections for people with pre-existing conditions, will do to the freedom to marry who you love. Those are the things that people understand in their own lives. And if we bring it back, not the procedural arguments, not the kind of political arguments, if we bring it back always to how it's going to actually affect people's freedom and life or death right now. That's the kind of moral argument that, if made with the kind of energy we had in the healthcare fight, that's our best shot at actually winning this.
This is a battle line that has been drawn that literally will put women's lives at risk, that undermines our civil rights, our human rights. This is a line that's been drawn about whether we are going to criminalize women, whether we are going to be arresting women for making decisions about their bodies. This is not a fire drill. This is not a hypothetical case. Please understand, this is already happening in states. It's happened in Tennessee. It's happened in Pennsylvania. It's happened in Indiana. Women have been arrested, mothers have been arrested when they're trying to get the health care that their daughters might need. This is not acceptable.
People around this country are worried, and they are right to be worried. We've got 50 years of hard work that's on the line. Women's access to safe legal abortions on the line. Marriage equality on the line. Voting rights on the line. Worker rights on the line, environmental rights on the line. What's at stake? The future of America is at stake. And let me be clear to all of you, and let me be clear to America. We are down in this fight, but we are not out.
Years from now, people are going to look at us and say, where were you during that inflection moment? Right. And we don't want our response to simply be how we felt. Our response is going to be what we did. That we spoke out, that we marched, we shouted, and we fought for justice and equality and fairness for everyone. And we will not tire in this process. There is so much at stake, and this is a fight that is born out of love of country, and we're not going to let anyone take our flag.